Now we will be discussing the fundamentals of metabolic health. We'll be discussing the core principles of blood sugar control, insulin sensitivity, and energy output and energy balance. So let's just get straight into it. Here's what we will cover. We will talk about understanding metabolism basics. That's a hard word to say. We will talk about blood sugar and insulin sensitivity, the key habits for a stable metabolism, early warning signs of dysfunction. So this is dysfunction of the metabolism. And in the end, we will be discussing the action steps for this video. So understanding metabolism basics. Energy conversion, converting food into energy, whether that's from glucose, protein, or fat. Glucose being carbohydrates. So these are the three macronutrients that you can derive energy from in your body, whether that's carbohydrates, protein, or fat. They have a caloric output, an energy output. Carbohydrates and protein has 4 calories per gram, and fat has 9 calories per gram. So this is how we get energy, by eating food. But not only does the macronutrients have an energy output, they also have an influence on your hormonal health, especially on your insulin. And we will be discussing that further. Then we also have the metabolic rate, right, which is controlled by your age, muscle mass, and physical activity. You obviously have the metabolic rate of just existing, just being alive, staying alive. Usually that's around 1700, 1800 calories per day. But then you also have your age, and this is more of a function of how much muscle mass you have. And then obviously you also have muscle mass in and of itself, because the more muscle mass you have, the higher basal metabolic rate you have, meaning that you burn more calories because muscles take a lot of calories just to maintain. This is also why you lose your muscle mass if you don't use it or if you don't eat enough. So with weight loss, if you do weight loss in the wrong way, not optimized in terms of your hormones, you will lose muscle mass, and you will lose a lot of muscle mass. This is why it's important to do weight loss if that's your goal, doing it the proper way to keep that muscle mass, because it's probably the most important organ to have for your metabolic health. It's your muscle mass. And then we also have the physical activity. So this is you working out, walking, strength training, whatever it is. The physical activity that you do every single day also takes calories, takes energy. And this is actually something that is usually very overestimated. Most people overestimate how many calories they actually burn by doing physical activity, because they don't burn that much. So if you go for a run, if you do strength training, don't go home and give yourself a donut or something like that, because a donut could have 400 calories and you can easily spend 45 minutes burning 400 calories, right? So don't do that. That is the ins and outputs of your metabolism. Then we have blood sugar and insulin sensitivity. So let's talk a little bit about why blood sugar matters and the impact of your blood sugar, and especially blood sugar spikes, on your mood, on your energy, focus, and your long-term health. So what is a blood sugar spike? A blood sugar spike is literally your blood sugar spiking, going up very fast and then going down again. And you get that usually with fast-acting carbs. So very simple carbohydrates will give you a blood sugar spikes. Sugars will give you a blood sugar spike. This is not efficient in any way for your mood or your energy levels, because in the beginning, the first 15 minutes approximately, you get a good amount of energy, but then you crash. And I'm sure most people actually do this on a day-to-day basis when they eat lunch. They eat their lunch, and then for 15-30 minutes they actually feel energized, but an hour later they want to take a nap. And that's because of this, partly because of this, because they get the blood sugar spike and then it falls down to below the baseline. So to really be able to have good energy levels, to have good focus for a longer period of time, if you have to be productive in your day-to-day life, you have to make sure that you don't get these blood sugar spikes. It's very important. And even more important for your long-term health. because sugar can be seen as a toxic. Now, sugar is not a toxic, right? But if you have more sugar in the bloodstream, then you are increasing your insulin resistance, which leads to chronic diseases. So this is what you have to really be careful about. Not eating too much sugar, not eating too many carbs, at least not something that will spike your blood sugar all the time and give you higher fasting insulin levels, because that's not good for your long-term health, long-term focus, long-term performance, and simply just risk of getting all these metabolic diseases, right? And this is partly also why you have to stay insulin sensitive. We know that metabolic diseases are caused by insulin resistance. So what is insulin resistance? Insulin resistance means your body is not reacting to the normal amount of insulin that is let out into the bloodstream to get in that sugar, and you have to use more insulin to get in that same amount of sugar. When you get insulin resistant, you are more likely to develop diabetes. Diabetes is one of the, I don't want to say best measures of insulin resistance, but it really is. You get heart disease, cardiovascular disease, liver disease. Most of these metabolic diseases, you get that from insulin resistance. This is also what we call metabolic syndrome, right? So this is why you really want to be as insulin sensitive as possible, as much as possible. That is how you stay healthy. So let's talk about the key habits for an optimal metabolism. You have to eat the right nutrition, and that is usually an animal-based diet focusing on more protein and fat and less carbs. When you do this, and we will be discussing this even more in the next few modules, especially in the Elite Nutrition Mastery, when you get your energy from an animal-based diet based on protein and fat, you will have less glucose spikes. So you will maintain a more steady energy level, energy flow, focus, and you're also making sure that you can stay healthy for a longer time period. This is one of the most important things to do, is doing this based on an animal-based diet. It's really going to give you that sensation of being in control, having focus for a longer time. And this is what some people, they do when they fast, when they do 2 meals a day, for example, or they do 1 meal a day. They force their body to not depend on glucose in the same way, but start burning fat, start burning ketones and using that as an energy source. And so they keep their blood sugars very, very stable, and they avoid those spikes. And so that is one of the easiest way to have focus for a longer time and keeping that constant energy throughout the day. You can also do regular activity, because resistance training paired with low and high intensity cardio is one of the best ways to maintain insulin sensitivity. Now, like we said before, if you have a good amount of muscle mass, then your metabolism, your basal metabolic rate will be higher. So having a good amount of muscle mass will increase your insulin sensitivity, especially during your workouts. So during your workouts and right after your workouts, you have this free window of time where you can, I don't want to say eat as many carbs as possible, because that's not what it is, but eat more carbs that will go straight into your muscles instead of having to be broken down and giving you those blood sugar spikes. So building a good amount of muscle with resistance training, which is strength training in the gym or body workouts, whatever you do, that is a very, very good idea for energy, for focus, but also for long-term health. And then you can do low and high intensity cardio as well. When you do low intensity cardio, which is usually zone 2 cardio, that could be walking, you are burning more than 50% of that energy. The energy you burn is from fat sources. So it's one of the best ways to actually burn fat is by doing low intensity cardio, which is walking. You could also do high intensity cardio. And when I say high intensity, I'm in the zone 4, zone 5s. You should do this for a shorter time period, but this is also very, very efficient to really max out your VO2 max and really improving your cardio and giving you an optimal metabolism. If you pair these three things, the resistance training with low and high intensity cardio, you're on a very good path to improving your metabolism a lot. And then we have sleep and stress, because proper recovery and stress management support metabolic function and health. Now, I don't know if you probably have felt this way, where you haven't slept that well for a night, or a few nights in a row. You'll have more cravings. You'll have more craving those days. And I felt this especially when I was working at the hospital and I was doing night shifts, 18-hour night shifts, and we wouldn't necessarily sleep. And so when I would go home in the morning and the day after, I would crave the worst foods known to mankind, right? And that is because of sleep, because of lack of sleep. And so this state of stress, because you don't sleep, will increase your cravings and will also make you more prone to, make bad decisions, which is eating bad foods, right? Stress is also very important to manage that metabolic health and metabolic function. Most men, their detriment is stress eating. This is a question that I get a lot. What is the worst thing for men? And that is stress eating, because they simply do not manage their stress. And again, this is not about avoiding stress, but this is about managing stress. When you don't manage stress and you turn to stress eating, that is wrecking your metabolic health for sure. So sleep properly and manage your stress. That's a very good way to make sure that you still have your metabolic health on point. And then we have the circadian rhythm. You have to take advantage of the sun's energy and impact on your body. This goes a little bit back to sleeping properly. When you make sure to go outside and get some sun in your eyes, you are setting that circadian rhythm. And that is helping you really avoid those costly mistakes of eating bad foods. When you don't do that, when you don't sleep properly, when you don't see the sun, when you don't get out, when you get too much blue light, when you avoid the sun's light, you get an unbalance in your circadian rhythm. And this is what you want to avoid, right? So make sure you also get out into the sun and that you sync your rhythm with the same rhythm in the outside world, especially with the sun. So let us talk about the early warning signs of dysfunction of your metabolism. If you have fatigue and energy crashes, if you have sugar cravings, mid-afternoon slumps, and low drive and motivation, these are usual signs of not optimal metabolic health. Sugar cravings, for example, like I said, if you don't sleep properly, you are more inclined to have sugar cravings. But even the days you sleep, if you just have sugar cravings every single day, then there's something wrong. You're not supposed to have sugar cravings every single day. Something is wrong. It's the same with mid-afternoon slumps. If you get home at 4 or 5 p.m. and you just want to hit the bed, something is wrong. That's not supposed to happen either, right? And it's the same with low drive and motivation. This goes a little bit back to being high and being low T. When you're high T, you don't really feel low drive. You don't feel low motivation. You just do whatever you have to do. But if you're low T, you might not feel the same sense of motivation. You might feel more tired. You don't have the same energy. And that is a dysfunction of your metabolic health, essentially, right? Then you can also see weight gain and inflammation, especially in your joints. If you have stubborn fat gain and joint discomfort. Now, the stubborn fat is usually around the stomach. If you can't get rid of that, again, something is wrong. Something was wrong with your metabolic health. And the same goes with joint discomfort. That's also a sign of a higher amount of inflammation in general in your body if you have pain. We've seen patients manage their pain, joint pain, knee pain, shoulder pain, by dropping weight and thus becoming more insulin sensitive and thus decreasing their inflammation overall. So those are early warning signs of metabolic dysfunction. So what should you do? The action steps. First one is understand your current habits regarding diet, training, sleep, and stress management. Again, in terms of the diet, it's probably one of the easiest things you can do. Make sure that you're eating animal-based real foods and focus on getting protein and getting fat. And let's focus on getting carbs. Most people, well, almost no one really need carbs to live. We can create those carbohydrates ourselves. I'm not saying you shouldn't eat carbs at all. I'm just saying that if you focus on getting your fat and your protein, and you can get carbs from natural, real sources like fruit, for example, then you're good. But if you get it from processed foods, processed sugars, then you're setting yourself up to really die early, essentially, right? Die early and get metabolic diseases. Training is the same. Make sure that you're working out. If you're doing resistance training, that you're doing low, that you're doing zone 2 cardio, that you're doing, that's the low intensity, but that you're also doing high intensity cardio, the zone 5 cardio. Those things are essential and will make everything easier for you. And then going to sleep and sleeping properly, 7 hours at least every single day. Then manage your stress. So this is how you can implement it, right? Small actions like more protein and less sugar in your diet, more walks. You can actually control your blood sugar, and this is more effective than using metformin, which is one of the first drugs that we give patients who have diabetes. You can control your blood sugar spikes better with postprandial walks, so walks after eating, than you do with metformin. So go on more walks. That's the zone 2 cardio. It's going to make you lose weight, and it's going to also give you the ability to control your blood sugar spikes even more. So that was it for this video. There's nothing else to say than let's get to work.